Alright, diesel locomotive operating manual number 23. Diesel locomotive operating manual number 2318 for the model GP9 with vapor car steam generator, January 1954, Electric Motor Division, General Motors Corporation, LaGrange, Illinois, USA. Introduction. I'll skip the introduction. Section 1. Description. General description. Diesel engine, main generator, alternator, traction motor, auxiliary equipment, storage battery, auxiliary generator, traction motor, blowers, radiator, cooling fans, air compressor, fuel pump, operating controls, throttle level, versatile level, selector level, mechanical interlocks for the controller, air brake equipment, automatic brake valve, independent brake valve, rotary air valve, the brake pipe, cutout, cock with the safety control, foot pedal, engine man, control panel, load indicator, mute for the operator, circuit breaker with the wheel, slip relay, ground relay, pneumatic control switch, headlight control switch, air gauge, brake gauges, electric control cabinet, isolation switch, engine start stop buttons, fuse knife switch, circuit breaker with the ground relay, control air pressure regulator, alarm indication, emergency fuel cutoff ring, engine room, engine governor, load regulator, engine overspeed, triplet of load, manual lay shaft, miscellaneous equipment and speed, recorder, handbrake, manual standing valve, classification light with a horn valve, the bell ringer, windshield wiper, carburetor, defroster, trucks. Alright, section 2. We'll come back to that. Shows the picture of general arrangement. Alright, section 1, description of the general locomotive with equipment. The GP9 is given with a cyclical locomotive consists of one more multiple units rated with a 1750 horsepower per unit, multiple unit operation between the locomotive with the operator control with the engine man, control with the stand with the lead unit. Basically, the short end of the GP9, end of the front end of the unit with the long end of the rear of the end of the unit. Multiple unit operation units can be coupled together from either and two type of the brake end. Equipment is different than between the two type of the model designation GPNL left and right, or the GPL left is equipped with the 6BL brake equipment, while the GPNR is equipped with the 24L brake equipment. 100 diesel engine for the doing generator auxiliaries. These units are driven with a 16-cylinder V-type with a 2-cycle with a 1750 HP model with a 567 with a C diesel engine. Figure 1.9 with the cylinders have the 8.5-inch bore and a 10-inch stroke. Two banks for the engine are arranged with respect to either other. The angle of the 45 degree of the engine has a scavenging air system. Has two blowers for the purpose. The blowers are mounted with the rear of the end of the engine. Each blower is equipped with a separate airfield for the engine and started with a temporary the direct coupler with the main generator starting motor for the current storage battery with the motors for the main generator rotate the engine. In this manual, the word engine refers to the specification of the diesel engine. Word locomotive refers to with one or more units. Show the 3/4 view of the 567-inch engine and the main generator and alternator. Figure 1.3. The main generator, the main generator, alternator. Some of the figure 1.3 with the diesel engine crankshaft with the started through the saturated coupling with the consistent of the kilowatt main generator to the current with a nominal 600 volt with the operation of the traction motor with the barometer. Main generator acts with an engine flywheel. Alternator. The alternator figure 1.5 built into the engine of the main generator frame is a 3-phase alternating current generator with the alternating current that produces the drive of the Ford engine water cooling fan with the 4 traction motor blowers. Alright, 103, the traction motor. The 4 model of the D37 the traction motor, figure 140, each of the unit mount with each of the axle, each of the motors, gear with the groove of the axle, wear of the drive of the motor, pinion gear meshing within the axle gear. The ratio between the two of the figures is 1.5 with the express for the double the number of the Dutch with the 62 to 15. In this case, the axle gear has 62 teeth, the pinion has 15 teeth. The traction motors show the pinion and the axle gear ratio chart. During acceleration, the traction motor electrically hooked up and utilized the full power to develop the main channel within the range of the current of the voltage limit attained with the traction motor electrical connection called the transition. Forced up the transition within the GP9 is followed with 1 series parallel, 2 series parallel shunt, 3 parallel, and 4 parallel shunt. The changing with the traction motor electrical connection for the transition complete with the automatic driven with the locomotive acceleration, deceleration, GP9 locomotive with no provision effect with the manual transition, the GP9 locomotive with the 4-stall with the automatic transition. Auxiliary equipment of 104 storage battery, power with a 32 cell with a 64 volt with a storage battery, with the start of the diesel engine storage battery compartment with accessible 3 over the hinge door with a section with a raised partition, pattern walk adjacent with the cabin on each side of the short hood of the end of the diesel engine running with the auxiliary generator chart with the storage battery. 105 auxiliary auxiliary generator. The 10 kilowatt auxiliary generator with figure 1/6 is directly driven for the rear of the gear train of the engine. Flexible coupling with the locomotive equipped with the steam generator is an 18 kilowatt auxiliary generator. The auxiliary generator produced with the direct current with a 74 volt the charge of the storage battery, supplied with low voltage circuit lighting, control the main generator, battery field excitation, fuel pump, and operation. 106 traction motor blower. The GP9 is equipped with a 4 alternative current driving traction motor blower motor. Figure 1/7. Each motor has a fan blower motor mounted on the rotor shaft with a supply with the cooling of 1 traction motor. The speed of the blower motor varies with the proportional speed with the diesel engine. Figures 1/7 of the traction motor blower, 1/8 of the radiator cooling fan, the radiator cooling fan with a 4 alternative current reading driving cooling. There are 4 alternating current-driven cooling fans. Figure 1/8 driven around with the roof of the long hood with the locomotive above the engine cooling water radiator section. A fan mounted on each of the rotor shaft that draws air with the radiator to remove the heat from the engine cooling water. The speed of the cooling of the fan motor vary with the proportion of the speed of the diesel engine. 108 air compressor with the 3-cylinder 2-stage for the air-cooled air compressor. Figure 19 driven with flexible coupling from the front end of the engine crankshaft. Is equipped with a model WXO air compressors, which has a rating of 235 cubic feet a minute and is set at 835 RPMs. And it shows the loading, K horn, pole cards, air gauges, alarm lights, automatic brake valve, sand valve, bulb bell ringer, independent brake valve, control switch, speed recorder, 3 out of lever, selector level if used, headlight control, dim and bright, and reverse level engine controls. Fuel pump is driven with a separate array with a direct for the current electric motor through the flexible coupling pump with assembly is mounted with the equipment rack for the support of the engine cooling wall with the tank with the operate the fuel pump with 30 amp of the fuel pump circuit breaker electric cabinet must be open with the control fuel pump circuit breaker on the engine control must be on operating controls 3 lever the 2 brake valve with the handle with control of the entire locomotive operation. These are the throttle reversal selector level the mounted with the control of the independent and automatic brake valve handle figure 110 figure 111 10 the throttle level with the lever control of the speed of the diesel engine for the normal operation. Figure 111 the position of the throttle is shown and illustrated. Figure 111 shows the throttle level is so as it stop the 1 through 8. Main indicator above the lever with the throttle 10 with the position stop light with the running at a speed with the 1 to 8 with the top with the 10 with the depressed with the emergency stop button with the end of the throttle level the pushing with the throttle level with the 1 step with the idle position stop all over the engine with the idle position as far forward with the throttle level that can be moved with the depressing with the emergency stop button. Idle position as far forward as the idle level can be moved without depressing the emergency stop button. Each running notch of the throttle increase the engine speed with 80 RPMs. Increment is 270 RPMs idle 1 and run 1 to 835 RPMs full throttle with the throttle closed complete with the 1 motion with the emergency should be closed with 1 notch time with the normal operation. May be opened rapidly with the providing operating condition of the train consists of the permanence of arrangement is a special value and the kicking of the cars and operating over the road of the tight schedule with 111 the reverse lever. The reversal level figure 113 3 position forward neutral reverse the direction with the locomotive with the move with the control with the movement of the lever the forward with the reverse position with the reverse level the neutral no part of development throttle is open even if the engine speed will increase with the reversal level that shows only the moves only when the locomotive stands still with the reversal level that can be removed the one control stand only when the lever is in neutral position the throttle is at idle with the selector. Lever is off with the removal of the reversal lever lock for the operating control with the control of the removal of the reverse level with the non-operating control stand selector level. Lever. All GP9 locomotives with the basically with the automatic transition fully automatic both forward and backward with no provision basically from the making transition manual. However, the selector level is applied with the all GP9 locomotive with equipped with the 24RL brake equipment. The selective level is applied with the GP9 locomotive with the braking with 6BL brake equipment only when the locomotive is equipped with a dynamic brake with a special with a multiple unit operation selector level that with the control of the dynamic brake operation. And to for the manual transition on any either coupled with the GP9 locomotive does not equipped with the automatic transition interlock with the control with the prevent the throttle from being with the open and left of the selector level either the off the number 1 position. Locomotives equipped with the dynamic brake move with the selector level to the off position does not establish the portion or any portion of the braking so with the move the lever from the B position partially established with the braking so with the move the lever from the right of the B complete for the circuit and increase with the braking effort. See Article 229 with the dynamic brake operation. 113 mechanical interlocks with the control of the leverage of the control stand and interlocks with the reversal level can be operated off only from the selector level to either the number 1 or off position throttle or and throttle and idle. First level can be removed from the control stand only when the selector idle is off and the throttle is idle. Move the reversal level of the locks and throttle and selector and levers. Selector level can be moved only between off and number 1 only when the throttle is in idle stop. The throttle level can be advanced for the selector level, the off and in the B position. 6. Selector level can be moved to the B position only when the throttle idle. The reverse level, the forward reverse valve level can be moved to the top of the reverse. The selector level to any position, but the throttle level to the top of the level locks against the movement of the reverse level. The selector lever may be moved any position if the reverser is in forward or reserve. Note, when you select your level, the effect of the beginning of the transition 2 to 3, the 3 to 2 for the older type of the unit, the throttle should be reduced to run 6 before moving the selector level to the desired position. Air brake equipment. GP9 locomotive with equipment, the 6BL for the brake with equipment, the figure 113 with the GP9 locomotive with equipment, the 24RL brake equipment, the figure 114 with the detailed information operations, 6BL with the 24RL brake. Equipment is given the engine manual or light for the familiar with the operation. The type of equipment, the air brake gave the locator with the engine control pane with the general with the cab air brake with equipment, consider for the automatic brake valve, the independent brake valve, rotary valve, the 24RL only brake for the valve, the cutout, cog with the double heading, cog with the transfer the valve, the reposition double heading, cog with the 6BL with the only feed valve, with the shape of the control with the cutout, cog with the 24RL only. So the 6BL brake and then the 24RL brake. Then it shows the 24H brake valve along with the D24 control valve. Shows handle off freight, lap, passenger, and position trailing A unit, independent brake unit valve note. 24RL brake cock handle positions, handle over freight, lap position. 114 automatic brake valve handle has 6 position release running with holding the first surface of the lap surface in an emergency application. The multiple unit operation with the 6BL brake equipment must be with the automatic brake valve handle. All trailing units must be kept with the lap position brake with the valve handle with the removal must be removed with the terminal brake stand with the lap position trailing units. Automatic brake valve handle with the breakage head and the hinge of the 24RL brake equipment is removal of the running position movable. Multiple unit operation brake with the valve handle should be removed with the running position from the operating control stand with the independent brake valve handle with the independent brake valve handle figure 115 have the 2 position relief with the full application for the application zone between the 2 positions. Brake valve with the self-lapping which automatically laps over the laps off all flow over the air, maintain for the brake cylinder pressure for the application for the pressure reach for the valve with the corresponding with the position with the brake of the valve handle with the application zone. Locomotive brakes may be to relief for the out after automatic application for the pressing of the independent brake valve for the release position. In multiple unit operation, the independent brake valve handle is in all trailing units must be kept in release position. If the brake valve handle is removed with the remove of the hand with the brake valve with the release position rotary valve, the K2 rotary valve in the figure 116, you the 24RL brake equipment selector valve that has 4 position freight, lap, passenger, and passenger lap. Rotary valve is the cut-in feature with the control rate with the locomotive brake zone with the pressure builds up with a long freight train with a handle with a place for the freight with the position lead the unit with emergency with application for the handle with the freight with the control build up with the brake zone and pressure obtained with the pressure trim with the short freight with the handle with the light locomotive with the handle place for the passenger position with the lead unit in an emergency situation application for the handle with the passenger of the range building up with the brake zone and pressure is obtained. Alright, during a safety control application from the foot taken off with the dead pedal of the locomotive over speed with the failure of the taking off of the train control signal split with the production brake pipe pressure of the attainment of the rotary valve with the freight with the full serve with the production of the brake pipe pressure with the attainment of the rotary valve with the passenger position. Multi-unit operation all trailing you with the place for the handle passenger lap of the lead with the unit set for the passenger freight lap and in freight lap lead unit is set for freight either lap with the position for the control of the emergency feature for the uncontrollable emergency operation brake with the lead unit lap position rotary valve with also cover the independent brake valve with the 12 trailing units. Taking full control over the locomotive brake for the lead unit. 117 brake pipe cutout cog with a double heading cog with a brake pipe cutout cog with a double heading cog with a 2/4L brake equipment. The figure 114 2 position cutout cog with a handle with a spring load with a self-locking to move the handle pull handle onward horizontally upward into the vertical. Then rotate the desired position handle with the horizontal position with the brake pipe with the cut in with the handle within the vertical position. The brake pipe with the cutout. The brake pipe cutout double heading cog with the 6BL with the equipment is 3 position double heading cog with the position for the double heading cog with the lead trailing with the dead spring loaded pin with extends beyond the hand with the engage of the locking pin, drilling the valve body of the trailing or dab with the move of the handle out with either 3 of these position pin must be first pulled out and handled, then rotated in the desired position with a multiple unit operation with a double heading cog with the all trailing units play with the trailing position when the locomotive is being hauled with the dead end with the trailing dead end of train is operated with a double heading serve with the play for the double heading cog in the dead position. 118, safety control foot pedal. The safety control foot pedal is located in front of the engine, CVT on the locomotive with the equipment, the 2-4-L brake with the equipment in the hand with the hinge and the automatic brake valve with the handle with the provide with the alternate control blending with the positional each of the concept with the handball with the U of the pedal with the automatic brake valve with the handle with the must have to press at all times except locomotive the shop with the locomotive brake with applied with 30 pounds or more brake cylinder pressure if both the foot pedal automatic brake valve are relieved the penalty application of the brakes will result. Engine control pan. Load indicator with the meter with the figure 118 with the accurate gap of the load and pulling forth for the locomotive with the meter connected with the lead with the number 2 with the motor with the amperage same with the motors same in all motors. Each motor receives the amount with the current that's shown on the meter. Telling the meter is graduated into amp to 0 at left of 1500 amps if the extreme right of the scale. 120. Operating circle breaker of the engine control panel with the figure 119 identifying with the nameplate below each of the circuit breaker with the tab of the swift, the start of the diesel engine, control the speed, the other control panel, and fuel pump and engine run with the circuit breaker must be on with the on. Move the locomotive with the general field, circuit breaker must be also on with the automatic sanding. Features cut in with the automatic sanding, the circuit breaker is on the on position. Engine control panel 119. 121. Wheel slip light. Flashing the wheel slip lights with the core of the engine control panel with the figure on 119 during the power operation. Indicate the wheels are slipping. The automatic sand with the feature cover. The automatic sand the circuit breaker is on position. Wheel slip is generally corrected immediately through the locomotive wheel slip control system. With the light goes out with the throttle, but should be reduced only with the continuous wheel slip occurs. 122 with the ground relay light. With the ground relay light engine control panel with the figure 119 light with the indicator with the trip ground relay located with the electrical cabinet with the ground relay on. All alarm bell will ring and the engine speed will reduce the idle of the engine. Will stop with the ground relay trip the throttle with the 5 and 6 and the PC pneumatic control switch and light with the pneumatic PC with the pneumatic control switch with the off the call with the power cutoff switch. Normally code with the electrical switch if it is operated with the air brakes. If it's during safety control with the emergency air brake application, if the switch opens, automatically reduces the power output of the locomotive with the trip down the PC switch. Immediately reduce the speed with all the engine with the idle. If the throttle is left in the 5th and 6th nines of the PC pneumatic control switch is tripped, the engines will stop. A white pneumatic control switch will indicate lighting and amount of the engine's man control panel with a light, whichever the pneumatic control switch is tripped. Figure 119 PC switch automatically reset with the throttle provided with the 1. Throttle is returned to idle 2 with the control of the brake of the recover with section 3 with the map of the recovering the control brake. 124 headlight control switch, the twin sealed beam. Front and rear headlights are controlled by the front and rear headlight circuit breaker with the engine control panel with figure 119 dimming switch with the 120 with the dismounted one side of the air brake equipment stand. On the GP9 locomotive equipped with multiple unit operation remote headlight control switch figure 121 enclosed with the box mounted with the below the engine man's front window with the remote headlight control switch alarm and allows the engineer to control the operation headlight with the rear unit from the lead unit. Switch has 4 positions as followed with a single unit with the operation switch plate with the vertical with the arrow with the pointing on the single unit with the multiple unit operation switch. Lead unit plate with the horizontal with the arrow pointing with the controlling which unit is coupled with number 2 and trailing units are coupled with the long hooded end of the lead unit. And then if the trailing units are coupled with the short head end of the lead unit within control of the switch with place with the vertical with the arrow pointing downward to the control unit of the coupled with the number 1 and 4 and last the units of the locomotive consist of the headlight control switch placed with horizontal arrow pointing with the control position. Whenever the 2 position coupled together with the headlight control switch, all units coupled between the lead unit last unit that consists of the must be placed vertical arrow position of the single unit intermediate units. 125 air brakes, third gauge with the standard gauge with the mount of the engine man control panel. Each of the gauges is clearly labeled in its function. Electrical control cabinet contained with the various contract with the relay with the other necessary equipment necessary electrical and pneumatic control of the unit if the form of the rear wall of the cabinet accessible from the cab of the engine room side. Isolation switch. 126 isolation switch. Switch has 2 positions, start handle, horizontal run handle, vertical with the figure 122 with the start position, power plant with the isolated alpha line with the control circuit, and the engine speed with reduce the idle engine will remain with the idle speed with not respond with the throttle control of the power contact with the end control cabinet will not operate. The control levels are normal. The alternate layer failure of the light alarm or bells are inoperative. Engine start and stop button for the effective only with the isolation switch in the start position. Isolation switch must be in the run position of the unit with the developed power. The isolation switch should be only when the engine moved only when the engine is at idle speed or stopped. Use the manual relationship with the lever of the bring with the engine idle to stop the locomotive with the under power or dynamic braking isolation switch of the start position. Do not play with it in the run while operating in dynamic brake. 127 engine start stop button. Engine with the start stop button. Figure 122 with located with the electrical control cabinet operated only with the isolation switches in the start with the diesel engine start button with it firmly with it holds until the engine start with it no more than 15 seconds with the normally stop engine with the press stop button with it firmly with the hold of the engine until the engine stops. 128. Fuse and knife switches. Circuit breaker with the located with the cap side of the electrical cabinet. Figure 123, 124. Follow the fuse with the knife switch with the circuit breaker with the 80 amp battery fuel fuse switch. 150 or 250 amp auxiliary generator battery charging fuse. 400 amp starting fuse. 600 amp the automatic train control fuse. Automatic train control switch. 5 main battery switch, main light switch, main control switch, auxiliary generator switch, ground relay, knife switch, circuit breaker, heater, light fuel, pump, auxiliary generator, alternator field. For proper locomotive operation, all fuses must be good and securely in place. All knife switches should be closed, and above the circuit breaker should be in position on all units of the locomotive consist. Ground relay. Figure 125 located in electrical control cabinet with a trip ground with a relay with a power control. Power output of the unit that automatically stop the engine speed with a reduce the eye with the white ground relay light will be on with only with the unit effective if the ground relay trip while the throttle was in the 5th or 6th knob the engine would stop. The alarm bell will ring at all units. Push of the ground relay, push in relay, reset button, remote the relay. The reset ground relay, push in reset button, remote reset button, extend through the cabinet door. Always play with the isolation switch and start before resetting the ground relay. Alright, 130, control air pressure regulated with the control air operating pressure, power conductor with the contactor of the reverse for the cam switch for the supply with the main reservoir with the reduce with the 90 plus or minus with the rebound with the control air pressure regulated with the regulatory with the figure 126 located with the cap side with the electrical cabinet, bolt lock nut with the top of the regulator provided with the beam with adjustment with the control air pressure gauge with a nameplate with electrical air pressure for the mount on the rear of the wall cab with the proper locomotive. The operating gauge should be read from 90 to plus or minus 3 pounds. Alarm indicator. Figure 127 with the 4 signal the light for the mount with the rear cab with the alarm bell with the round with the engine room side with the electrical cabinet signal light with the indicator with the high engine steam with the blower with the top with the low oil pressure with the alternator failure with no AC power with the indicator with the alarm bell ring with the all unit with the single light will be on only for in the unit effective with 132 with the emergency fuel cutting off the ring and emergency fuel cut off the ring is mounted on one side with the electrical cabinet. Two additional pull rings are located on each side of the locomotive above the front end of the fuel tank. Pulling over the 103 emergency pull with the rings will trip the emergency fuel cut off with the valve at the top of the fuel supply with the fuel pump with the valve that's located with the closed compartment in the lower front center of the fuel tank to reset. Push the control rod in figure 128. Should the fuel tank push in, reset, emergency fuel cut off, set position, trip position. Alright, your engine room. 2 ends of the engine are just named front and rear of the figure 129 with the servo identified with the cylinder of the end of the end sides of the referred to within the spring with the governor water pump with the lubricating oil pumps are the front end of the blowers and oil separated with the generator are mounted with the rear end. Engine is placed in rear of the rear end towards the end of the unit wall of the operating normally forward direction. 133, engine governor. The engine governor figure 130 on the front end of the engine perform with the function controlling speed with the diesel engine with the direct with the position throttle with the control stand speed with the engine control with the 275 RPM with the dial with the 835 RPM with the run 8 with the order with the throttle with the transmit electro hydraulic governor through with the electrical circuit with the governor connected through linkage injector control shaft with each with the bank with the of the engine with the regulating position with the injector brake with the consequently fuel injected with each with the cylinder speed with the engine control with the governor performs job speed seeing with the engine rotate with the speed order with the throttle regardless of how much for the how little fuel is needed. Device called for the load regulator act for the cause of the generator cause the generator to allow the injection no more no less fuel with each zone with the edge which will result with the predetermined power of the input with the throttle. Low oil pressure of the device built with the governor protect with the engine and keep with the low oil pressure high vacuum suction side with the pressure lubricating oil pump in the event with the lubricating oil trouble. The governor will immediately stop the engine light with the yellow the oil alarm signal with the unaffected the alarm bell will ring with the all unit with the engine stop with the blue alternator failure where light will also be on until the effect on the unit effective. When the governor oil pressure the device stop with the push button with the protrude with the front with the governor housing with the exposed with the red band around with the shaft button with the shaft with the push and the press in the isolation position. Move to the start position, turn off the alarm bell. Low oil button will not trip the engine stop with any other oil trouble. If the engine stopped by the governor low oil, the device push button may be reset before the engine can again the restart of the engine, start with the running at idle speed with the governor engines again stop with the engine approximately 40 seconds. The condition that remains the cause of the original shutdown. The engine should not be repeatedly started if the governor persisted in shutting the engine down. But if the attempt made for the running of the engine go over the idle speed again, delay period, governor will immediately stop the engine if the oil pressure slugs are not normal. Alright, 134, load regulator, peak 131, located adjacent to the air compressor on the right side of the unit with the primary purpose of the load regulator will automatically control the loading edge of the main generator so the predetermined power for the output is obtained with each of the position of the load regulator is automatically operated. The rheostat connected with the receiver of the main generator of the battery field with the main generator with the battery field with a low voltage externally excited field. The load regulator is the minimum field with the brush arm with the view of the window of the 4 o'clock position. Maximum field is obtained with the brush arm into the 8 o'clock position. Alright, 135 of the engine. Overspeed of the device is at the front end of the engine with the trip to the engine stop with the engine speed. Show the exceed with approximately 910 RPM with the 1 for the overspeed with the trip for the must reset with manually pulling the lever counterclockwise until the latches before the engine can be restarted in figure 132. Manual lay shaft with the manual lay shaft control lever attached to the end of the injector control shaft with the left control center of the engine with the figure 133 lever may be used to manually shut down the engine with the bring with the speed of the engine. Either will take with the engine off the line, but also use the facility and start with the cold engine. Alright, miscellaneous equipment of 137 on speed recorder. The speed recorder located at the front control stand hydraulically operated speed and speed of the recording tape with the odometer is driven with the number 2 axle through the flexible cable. The handbrake. The handbrake of the figure 134 is mounted with the outside of the engine room hood of the rear platform of the locomotive. The handbrake is applied with the pumping long handle with the up with the release position. Pulling with a short release lever in effect with the one pair of the wheels moved before moving the locomotive. Be sure the handbrake is completely restored. 139 manual sanding valve with the locomotive equipped with 2.4 RL brake with a hinge, automatic brake valve with the handle, sanding with a complex depressing lever with the beyond with the safety control position with the previously described with the move of the operator with the sanding bulb that opens with the port with the supply air with the sanding equipment, the locomotive hinge with the having rigid hand with the 2.4 RL automatic brake valve with an independent sanding valve with installed with the valve with the operator with the move of the locomotive lever forward and backward until the latch moving the locomotive's equipment is 6BL with the brake equipment, the sanding valve with the mounted with the brake valve with assembly and sanding operating valve has 3 position forward, off and reverse, which allow for the application of sand for the movement in either direction. 4 classification light with it for permanently fixed with the bullseye with the lens with the provided 2 on front with a short locomotive hood and 2 on the rear locomotive. Inside hood with the behind with the bull hides with a small compartment containing with the classification light bulb with the colored lens with the green lens with the provided with each of the compartment which can be moved into position between the bulb and the bullseye with the accomplished for this locking pin with the move with the desired lens swung in place. Locking the pin and replace the colored lens of the axle of the room. Accessible from the inside of the hood through the hinge door of the compartment with both the red and green lens for the out position permanent. Bullseye lens will show the white light and will making the 3 colors available. 141 horn valve with the horns operated with the air valve with the control of the pull cords over the above the control stand with the horn shut off valve located behind the engine control panel adjacent to the hood compartment door. 142 bell ringer locomotive single with the normally located behind with the pilot over the right front end of the locomotive operated by the air valve locomotive engine station. Windshield wipers, windshield with wipers 4 and a number that are controlled with the valves over the window of the 2 on each side of the wipers. Operate independently. Each of them should not be on the drive window, the dirt glass, or blade will scratch glass. Cab heater. In the front of the 2 cab heaters are front with the rear wall of the operating cab above the electrical control panel. Figure 127 the number 1 cooling fan cutout switch will be on the opposition manual. Show the control level from one of each side of the electrical cabinet. Show them to be in the closed position operating in the cab heater. When warm air is forced into the ducts here for the fan of the operating cab, each of the fan motors controlled individually 4 position switch mounted with the rear wall. Alright, there are no individual defrosters for the GP9 locomotive. Well, the cab heaters are the turn-on warm air blow on the front of the rear window, keeping it clear of the condensation. Truck, there are 2 4-wheel flexible trucks with provided with each GP9. Each of them have the equipped with a hot roller bearing journal box, a stencil bomb on each of the journal box, relief the pugnant door over the temperature of the inside of the journal box to exceed 220 degrees Fahrenheit. Section 2.